Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our TGIF and Product Owner episode this week with Drew Craig. Hey, Drew, welcome back.
Hello, happy Friday.
Indeed, happy Friday. Yesterday, we almost bumped into the Friday episode when we were talking about product operations. Now, I have no idea if that's what you're going to talk about now, but let me ask the question first. So we'll talk about a great product owner in a minute. But for now, share with us, Drew, what might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
Yes, Vasco, the product operations, I will save some of those conversations for a later topic that you can bring up. I'd be happy to be part of that panel. For the product owner that exhibited some of the anti-patterns that we struggle with is as organizations tend to shift into their agile ways of working, a lot of times you have a product owner that was previously a project manager, and they got the old tap on the shoulder and they said, hey, project manager, we're going into Agile now. So I need you now to be a product owner. And they're not given the proper training. And they say, here's your team. You're the product owner. Go figure it out. And with all good intentions, they get stuck into this anti-pattern of what they say is the thing, that there is no collaboration. You mean
what the product owner says is the thing?
That what the product owner says is now what everyone is to do. There's no collaboration. There's no discussion. They have all of the answers because they've done this all before. And so the team is now just a group of folks to implement what they see as the right thing. And this particular product owner struggled with fostering a cohesive dynamic within the team. Now, this organization brought in a lot of contractors and consultants from different agencies, and there was an aspect of that these contractors were not part of the team. They are contracted by us, and they will just do the things that I tell them to do, and I don't want to hear their ideas. And that was a challenging anti-pattern for us to change within the team. Oddly enough, we talked about retrospectives yesterday. It was a retrospective that we leveraged in order to incorporate a theme into this retrospective and essentially just lay it all on the table and have an open conversation, because the product owner didn't realize what they were doing was wrong, right? That's how they used to project manage. And so they didn't have the benefit of having a seasoned Scrum Master, and I was not part of that team until halfway through. And so these were some of the things that I worked with the Scrum Master to implement. Hey, let's just have a conversation. Let's utilize this upcoming retrospective. Let's get everyone in the room and let's talk about it. Let's sort of create our team charter, right? Let's start all over. Let's do a reset. And that was a helpful turnaround point to just understand what is my role as a product owner and how do I start to shift my thinking from a project manager.
And was it so? I mean, you didn't say this in so many words, but was it so that the PO also saw themselves as being outside the team?
They did. I'm glad you brought that up, because they did. And there's something else that we should call out that's important is everybody has a boss, and all they were trying to do was fulfill the expectations of their manager. And we talked about this in a previous episode. Does leadership truly understand when they move into these agile ways of working and they start to empower these different roles? Do they understand what that means? And I think that's the gap. And it puts folks in these new roles under a lot of pressure, right? So certainly their intent every day is not to cause an anti-pattern, They just want to look good to their boss. And
Everybody
that's where
does,
these
right?
conversations, yeah. Uh,
Absolutely. But this was actually a great story to remind us as Scrum Masters that the dynamic between the product owner and the team is very critical. And when the product owner starts to see and act as if they were outside the team, then a lot of lack of collaboration, top down dictating instead of involving the team and finding out better solutions, like all of that can emerge. I mean, I've worked with product owners that actually did not just tell the developers what to do, they even wrote pseudocode for the
mhm.
developers to type. And of course that's counterproductive, because it is the development team's responsibility to come up with the innovative ways to deliver value to the customer. And it is the product owner's responsibility to understand what value that is, right? And when you mix the two, you're kind of missing the whole story.
That's right. I think another good lesson for the Scrum Masters out there, and even the coaches, is one, and I think you said it, but I'm going to highlight it, is one, how do we think objectively in our role, right? So we can be more empathetic into the perspective of that individual. Again, we want to really recognize that I've been a product owner before. It's very hard. It's a very demanding job. And we want to be empathetic to help them to be successful in their role. And that can be either through conversations with them, again, thinking objectively, what are they seeing, and not what do I see them dealing with? And then how can we help, right? This is again increasing our sphere of influence as Scrum Masters, is how do we help their leaders understand their role?
Yeah. And that is something that the product owners might need help with, because they might not be ready to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
So, of course, there isn't always anti-patterns. Sometimes there are great product owners, and that's what we're going to talk about next, Drew. So share with us the best product owner you've ever worked with. How did they work?
This individual was actually quite amazing. He was very senior in his role. Again, he got the tap on the shoulder too. And essentially, he really was, if we're going to kind of create levels, a product manager type of role. He knew his craft in and out. This was totally new for him. What made him amazing was he was 100% bought in. He was 100% engaged and curious and present. He sat in the room. We created these agile team rooms. This was pre-COVID, the good old days. And there was all of us in one room, and he would sit in the room all day long. Now, these teams, the way they were structured was they actually had sort of this, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the role product owner proxy. It's like almost like having a business analyst on the team. So there was a role that was like a product owner proxy type of role. So the product owner did not need to be there every day, was not mandated to be there every day, was there every day, sat in a room. And even when you thought that this individual wasn't paying attention, he always was. And he would allow the teams to talk through problems, talk through Vasco. You mentioned it, the teams talking through the how, right? And he was able to craft his vision, craft the what in such a way that the teams were able to, well, we talk about being empowered with information. Well, the team had information. They were empowered to discuss the how. And he would only look up and chime in if he felt that they might be heading in the wrong direction, or if they misunderstood the vision or any of the outcomes that they had intended. And he would ask great questions around, he would challenge me as the coach for the team. Hey, should we just look at what other teams are doing, for example, to give us a head start? And we might go back and forth in a little bit of a pseudo type of argument, not a real argument, but challenging each other respectfully. And that's the type of product owner that I want to work with. I want to be
Absolutely.
challenged. I want them to be challenged, and I want them to be engaged. And this individual portrayed all of those characteristics.
Absolutely. A great story. Drew, we're getting close to the end though, but before we go, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
LinkedIn would be the best place. I try to share interesting articles or insights. I don't write a lot of articles right now, but maybe that's something I could strive for in the future. But yes, please look out for me on LinkedIn. Send me a network connection, and I'd gladly accept. I did share my Twitter or my X handle. I don't typically post. I just use it as my news aggregator, but certainly happy to, happy to have anyone reach out to me there as well.
Absolutely. And we'll put those links in the show notes so that people can easily reach out, and why not ask Drew a few follow-up questions. Drew, it's been a pleasure.
Please.
Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you so much. This has been an amazing experience.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. So join us at scrummasterpodcast.com and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more full week of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.